Welcome back, my friends, to the Derate the Hate podcast. I am your host, Wilk of Wilk'sWorld.com, and this is episode 100. That's right, 100 episodes, 100 weeks in a row. We have been doing the Derate the Hate podcast, trying to bring you value to make the world a better place. My guest this week is Christian Watson, a very profound thinker and spokesperson for Color Us United, an organization whose primary purpose it is to give voice to those who may be upset by government, corporate, and media claims that America is a hateful country. We'll get to that conversation in a quick minute, but first, what have you done today to make your life a better life? What have you done today to make the world a better place? It's all about us as an individual, our mindset, our actions, the way we act, the way we react, the way we do things, no matter what happens to us, but how we react to it. Friends, we are just here to better the world one attitude at a time. And it's all about personal accountability. It starts with you, it starts with me, it starts with everybody and their attitude. Getting to our conversation, Christian Watson, like I said, profound thinker, podcaster, YouTuber, and spokesperson for Color Us United. Do not miss this episode. Great conversation. Let's go. Christian Watson, thank you for joining the Derate the Hate podcast, man. I appreciate your time.
I'm happy to be here.
So, Christian, Color Us United is the group. The way that I became familiar with you, or I became familiar with Color Us United, because of seeing a video clip of you on Fox and Friends Weekend. I think a little while back with Rachel Compost Duffy. Yeah, it very much intrigued me. I look for organizations that like to do good work. And when I say good work, I mean building unity. I'm active in the organization Braver Angels. I do a lot of work with them. And then the Foundation Against Intolerance and Racism. I've talked to several of their members. I love those groups. And Color Us United kind of struck me as having a lot of that same feel. So Christian, tell me, and more specifically, tell the DTH listeners, what is Color Us United?
Yeah, so Color Us United is simply a group that is fighting for a colorblind America. It's a group that believes that our individualities and our merits matter much more than our identities, which in many cases are arbitrary and are used by political profiteers in an arbitrary way to levy their personal goals, as opposed to do anything that's going to be profound or insightful in terms of public policy. And much like FAIR, and much like other groups, we do have some overlap. Although what we do that's different than FAIR is that we actually go into institutions and we wage war on these ideas. We go into institutions and we fight these ideas head on. We don't simply make videos or do speeches. And FAIR does great work, by the way. I love FAIR. They're one of our partner organizations. They do great work. But the caliber of our work is just very different. FAIR is more of the academic side. We're more of the let's go fight side. But both are invaluable if you're going to have a successful operation.
Right. No doubt. Yeah. And one of the things that I really like on the site that stood out to me was it says many like to claim that we are segregated by race, gender, ideology. Yet for the most part, we the people get along as neighbors, coworkers, sports fans, sports players, parents, caring people, and much more. And I think that's true. I've said it many times, Christian, on the podcast, that people need to pay less attention to those voices out there that want to claim we're so divided and keep us separated, and just talk to your neighbor. I mean, talk to your neighbor, talk to your coworker, because it's not really as divided as a lot of them would have you believe. Isn't that right?
That's right. And I was on the Quiggler podcast very recently, Adam Quiggler's show, and I said exactly the same thing. I told him that one of the ways that we beat back bad ideas is by realizing that not everyone is consumed by bad ideas. And how do you realize that? You get out of the ecosystem that political discussion currently lives in. That is the internet ecosystem that appears to show that bad ideas are winning or they're flourishing. But the internet ecosystem is a very narrow ecosystem because it only shows the people who know how to work it best. Well, in the real world, the world is too vast for just the people who know how to work the world best, whatever the heck that might mean, to make an impact. Your world may just be a few miles around you. And in that instance, you may be the person who knows how to work it best. So going out in reality and interacting is always going to be a more effective way of gauging how things are than staying on Twitter or Facebook all day.
No doubt, man. I call and I like how you call it the internet ecosystem, but yeah, social media has definitely become I call it a dumpster fire of hate, lies, and misinformation.
Mm-hmm.
And the algorithms they use, it does. I mean, it does kind of feed into that mentality. So if they find that you are spending an inordinate amount of time looking at negative articles based on this, that, or the other thing, you're going to be inundated with that stuff all day long. And then pretty soon, and I talk about the reticular activating system quite often as well, your brain can only consume and focus on so many things at any given time. So now all of a sudden that manifests itself as your reality. You're so focused on those few things that those algorithms keep pumping into your, whether it be Twitter feed or Facebook feed or whatever the case may be. Now that is your reality. There is nothing outside of that. So that makes a lot of sense. But the reality is, and this is another thing on Color Us United site that I didn't know, and I really like that information, is that 33%, it says only 33% of the American public feel that race itself is a predominant or a significant part or an important part of their lives. And again, when you're looking at the media or the mainstream media and the social media news feeds, you would believe that it is the predominant issue in everybody's life. There's a racist under every bed. There's a racist around every corner, hiding in every closet. Just wait to jump out and beat you down. But that's just not the case. So what are the ways, Christian, that Color Us United, you said Color Us United gets out there and fights. What are the things that they do to bring that fight to whether it be the woke mob or those that are trying to beat everybody down with the racism?
Absolutely. The biggest thing that we do, we go out and we tend to, what we've done in the past with the Salvation Army, which was our last big victory. We went out and we found the story of the Salvation Army forcing their members to adhere to a curriculum called Let's Talk About Racism. And we found people in the organization that were not very, actually, that's not true. They found us. There were people in the Salvation Army that found us through our media appearances. And they reached out to us and they said, look, we've got to fight. We have got to fight because this is not our Salvation Army. This is not how things should be. And so what inevitably ended up happening is that we got into meetings with them and we strategized and we launched a petition that has over 14,000 signatures, urging them to take down Let's Talk About Racism curriculum on their website and urging the Salvation Army to renounce their woke policy. And not only did we do that, but we also launched a full-scale media campaign. We got the Daily Wire and several other major outlets on it. We got the Salvation Army to trend on Twitter. The publicity was so bad. This is right around the donation season too. The publicity was so bad that they released several press statements about our efforts. And then the national commander of the Salvation Army, the guy who's over every single Salvation Army chapter in the United States, second command of the organization, he released a video attacking Color Us United and our president, Kenny Zhu, by name, saying we are waging a war on Christmas and the poor for exposing their wokeness. So, and then the general of the Salvation Army, the international general, was over all the Salvation Army chapters in all the countries, retweeted that video. So we impacted the conversation up to the very top of the discourse, the very top of the organization. And so that's what we do. We shed light on this when we go to the media and we say, hey, this is happening. This cannot stand. And we've only done it once so far. About do it with American Express, who are handing out bonuses to hire people who have different marginalized groups, who are bringing anti-capitalist speakers to come talk to their employees, who are just doing things that are very egregious. And we're going to do a similar campaign against them.
Yeah, and I think it's important work, Christian, because I look at an organization like the Salvation Army. The Salvation Army is an incredible organization on its face. It's done incredible work over the years for so many people. I mean, it's helped people over the course of history. I mean, it's helped so many people. I know people that they've helped personally. I love the Red Kettle campaigns, and it hurts me to see organizations like them going woke or promoting that or bowing at the feet of the woke mob, thinking that it's going to somehow do something for somebody. I mean, the work that they've been doing over the course of their existence has been absolutely incredible. I hate to see when organizations do that. Another one that I've recently seen is or I think I read an article this morning, and I don't want to get too much into it because I haven't researched it too much. But like the CEO of Disney now has made out or come out with a video saying, "Hey, I failed the LGBT community because of that law that's coming out in Florida and stuff like that." And I just hate to see these organizations. I mean, I will tell you, Disney is a staple in my household. I've got a 2-year-old daughter that absolutely loves to watch, Mickey's Funhouse. And, I sit there and watch it with her too. It brings me back to my childhood. I love Disney cartoons, but I hate to see when these organizations end up bowing at the altar of the woke mob and somehow thinking that this highly publicized virtue signaling is going to somehow do any good for anybody. Talk a little bit about that, Christian.
Yeah, and this is always the problem of intention. The problem of intention are these corporations and institutions, many of whom have massive cultural influence, more so even than the government, are they actually doing this, bowing to these ideologies because they believe in it? Or are they doing it to make a PR statement? And at this point, I think that many of the people in the corporate boardrooms of the country believe that if they didn't do this, otherwise they'd be accused of being bad things, racist, xenophobic, sexist, and those bad things could potentially tarnish the brand. This is precisely why many of these institutions cater to these kind of beliefs. And it is fundamentally disappointing. And I did see the thing about Disney as well. They're ceasing their political operations in Florida. And it's just fundamentally disappointing. But this is why we exist. Because if a minority of people in this culture who happen to wield some influence over communication media, which people who believe in wokeness tend to, if they can make a big kerfuffle about this stuff, then someone else, maybe not of equal power, but someone else of equal, being equally loud, but being loud with a purpose, with a message, then perhaps we can push back. And that's our entire goal. We got to make these corporations know that they don't have to cater to this. This is going to be a goal of our American Express campaign. The goal is American Express, but the goal is also bigger. The bigger goal is to ensure that the corporate culture in America does not cater to this stuff anymore by letting corporations know they don't have to do this. So yes, I agree with you. It is a problem, and we're doing everything in our power to fight it.
That's awesome. That's like I said, I think it's very important work, and you guys' team over there at Colorado United, you guys got a pretty impressive team. I've seen some names on there like James Lindsay, Christopher Rufo, my friend Christopher Harris from Unhyphenated America. I haven't spoke to him in a while. He was on episode 64, but all those guys doing great work. I've seen some of the stuff that they do. So it's a pretty powerful team, a very thoughtful team, people who really know their stuff. So, you guys aren't coming at this from a willy-nilly angle. You guys have definitely done your homework. So that's awesome. And then Christian, I believe you also have your own podcast, the YouTube channel. Tell me some of the stuff that you're doing on your podcast and your personal YouTube channel. So what kind of stuff can people find from Christian Watson that's out there just making the world better? What are you doing?
Oh, well, I appreciate it. So basically what happened there, Color Rush United is my big project, but so is my channel. They're equally as big in my eyes. The channel is going to includes just about everything, but it primarily includes philosophical analysis of current events, cultural and political issues. So one day I could be talking about something that's happening over in Russia, and the other day I could be talking about the merits of democracy or a republic. I mean, it just depends on the day. But I strive to have a mixture of evergreen content and content that will speak to what's going on right now. I think it's good to have a mixture of it. But I genuinely believe that our political discourse in general, even beyond the woke stuff, because the woke stuff is an advent of the past decade or so. There's been problems way before it. Even beyond the woke stuff, our political discourse is in a bad way. It's in a way where people of all ideologies want simplicity over depth. It's in a way where bomb throwers and polemicists rise up to the stratosphere of popularity and can spew their ilk into the minds of people and therefore change how they interact with politics. It's in a way where everyone views themselves as undoubtedly right without even considering in a brief moment of epistemic humility, if they may be incorrect. It's in a way that is not conducive to a good society or anything of that sort. So I'm trying to change that by establishing myself as a political commentator and injecting death back into the discourse. That is my mission. That is my MO, and it is hard. It's hard work. It's not at all easy. There are a lot of people on YouTube and elsewhere who are much bigger than me, who are doing things much easier than me, who are fine, insulting people, who are fine, screaming at their phones or whatever, who are fine using their identity as a basis for people to love them. There are a lot of people who are fine with that stuff. I'm not going to sell my integrity just for a few clicks. So my path is a little bit slower, but it's more worth it.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. No, I know, that it does seem, Christian, that conflict sells, that conflict and controversy, just being out there trying to, like many hosts, many of your, our fellow people on Twitter or Facebook or whatever, they've got these massive followings, but you're right. What they're doing is they are capitalizing on the fact that people like that controversy. They like that bulldog that's just going to go in and start ripping on ripping on their opponent. I like the fact that you're going a different direction, because I think that whether it be the political discourse, in Braver Angels, we talk a lot about political ideas of the day, different political topics that may be controversial. But one of the reasons I love that organization is because it's not necessarily about changing anybody's mind or telling somebody that they're wrong, but it's simply about having a conversation and finding the humanity in that other person, even though they might have an idea or a thought or something that's completely opposite of my own. And I think that's one of the big things that we are missing in this country today. So what you're doing is absolutely right. Sure, you may not be gaining followers, and I might not be gaining followers as quickly as somebody who likes to capitalize on that controversy, but I'm not about that nearly as much, and I don't think you're about that nearly as much, as actually trying to make the world a better place, putting out ideas and telling others it's okay to have ideas differing from mine, and we can still be friends, but let's at least listen to each other and listen in a way that we understand versus just listening to respond and then try to belittle and berate the other side afterwards, because it's going to get more clicks. I like it a lot. So
absolutely. No, absolutely. And that's, it's about, if you want true success, you must not deviate from your principles.
Right.
True success does not come from selling yourself to people for their temporary affection. I say temporary because, let's be honest, a lot of the people today who are around talking about politics in a bombastic way will not be remembered in the future. They will not have made a long-standing impact. They'll be remembered as a flame that burned very, very bright and hot, but burnt out quickly.
That's right.
I believe in the slow burn because a slow burning flame is always better for everything because it lasts longer.
Yeah.
It lasts longer. It doesn't burn out as fast.
No, that's absolutely right, man. So, Christian, tell me, from your point of view, why do you think that it is that so many would have you believe, or maybe, well, I don't know if it's so many, but again, kind of going back to the point that we talked about earlier, was they make it appear that so many believe. But what do you think, Christian, is the reason that people would have you believe that a concept like a race-blind society is actually a racist term in and of itself? What do you think is the root of that?
Because their idea of what is racist is rooted strongly in the idea of systemic problems as opposed to individual biases. They believe that racism is a result. Racism is seen not merely in the values of people, but it's seen fundamentally in disparities. And if we're going to be colorblind, the argument is that we'll ignore the very obvious racist roots of those disparities and will allow racism to flourish in that sense. The problem with this is, as many people have said in the past, I don't need to repeat it, but the problem with this is that disparities do not entail racism. Racism is a value statement. Racism is an individual mindset. That individual mindset can be enshrined into policy, sure, but that individual mind, but you should be able to actually see the policy and see how it's racist in explicit detail, as opposed to simply attributing racism to a faceless disparity. You could see a Jim Crow law and see how it's racist by segregating people between certain drinking fountains and certain buildings. Okay, that's very obviously racist. You don't need to look at a disparity to see that. You can look at the language of the law to see that, and you can get rid of it. Right. But they don't want to focus on that. So when your idea of racism is simply disparities, statistical disparities, then that's all it'll be.
Yeah, no doubt. A phrase that's been coming to my mind a lot lately, Christian, you can tell me what you think of this, is I like the phrase correlation does not necessarily equate to causation.
Yeah.
And when you talk about the disparities, yes, there's going to be certain laws that are put into place that adversely affect a certain group of people more than the other. Politicians now, they use these laws that they put up as a political football, and they try to say, well, this is going to adversely affect this group, so this law must actually be racist. Well, no, just because it's going to adversely affect a certain group it's not the cause of the adverse effect. Mm-hmm. It may adversely affect them for any number of reasons. Yep. But the fact that it's going to adversely affect a certain racial group, it's not the true cause of it. It's just a byproduct of it. Does that make sense?
Yep. That's exactly right. Exactly right. Yep. Yeah. Correlation is not equal causation. Yep. Exactly right.
To really root out racism in this country, I think we do need to strive for a race-blind society. Mm-hmm. And when we have people that try to constantly racialize everything. I've talked about it in several episodes of the podcast, where when we have people that are constantly beating that racialization drum, trying to interject race into everything when race has no place in it. Just like the Ukraine thing, I don't talk a lot about politics on the Derate the Hate podcast, but when a predominant figure in the media, like a Joy Reid, tries to interject race into a topic like the war in Ukraine or Russia's invasion into Ukraine, and the world is only paying attention because it's two white country, what do you think that is? What brings about that mentality, Christian, where somebody they feel they need to interject that into some place where that has no basis being?
Essentialism, basically. Essentialism. Seeing everything in terms of one quality or factor, right? It's essentialism. Some people would quarrel with that definition, by the way. I've had people try to say that my use of essentialism is wrong, but I think it's pretty correct, or at least what they're doing has the same effect as essentialism. Joy Reid really can't see the Ukraine situation or any situation beyond the lens of race, partially because she genuinely believes that race is involved in everything, and the other part is because it's her brand. She lives and eats and breathes off of that thing, and it's really the only thing she's an expert in, if you even want to be courteous and say that. And so someone is going to go to the area they feel most comfortable. That's human nature. And they're going to talk about the thing in which they feel most comfortable about too. So it's essentialism, probably. I would guess. I don't know her intentions, but I've watched enough of her to see that. I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah, I hate to try to speculate about what's in a person's heart or why they do certain things that they do, but I think that's a fantastic explanation, Christian. Is it's their go-to thing because it's what they feel they most know or know the most about. And again, I go back to what I talked about before when I talk about the reticular activating system. The human brain can only focus on so many things, and then if you're constantly focused on race and the racialization of everything, you begin to lose sight of everything outside of that.
Yep.
And so it then manifests itself in everything that you do. So she is the type of person. I mean, it's just the same way as the people on The View. The people on The View are so intent on hating certain people that that's kind of what they do. They have no ability to see things outside of that particular bubble to look objectively at other things and say, well, maybe we were wrong on this. Maybe this isn't the way things are. And then so they just kind of get stuck on that one track.
Yes, exactly. And it's a kind of megalomania that is endemic to the philosophies of whether it be Crenshaw, whether it be D'Angelo, whether it be Ibn Kendi. It's the same kind of megalomania, meaning the same kind of intense, single-minded focus that blinds them from being able to see other factors that contribute to the creation of this beautiful world that we live in. And the solution to that is not more megalomania on our part. The solution to that actually is to counter the megalomania with a variety of ideas, many of which will actually take us away a little bit from the anti-woke conversation and take us into deeper philosophical territory. You see, it's not enough to simply be against wokeness. You also have to have a value system as well. The problem is a lot of people are against wokeness and they identify moral positions than they do actual value systems. That's why I always try on my channel to bring it back to natural law, to bring it back to these philosophical ideas that constitute, our country and constitute some of the moral theories that I think will lead us back to a good place. I never just strictly, I'm anti-woke. Look at me. That's why I do a variety of content. I don't just do anti-woke content. I do content that's going to help people construct a cohesive value system. Mm-hmm. That's what's so important.
Absolutely.
There's a reason why Glenn Lowry can speak about these issues with authority, not just because he's anti-woke, because the guy he's been a conservative since like the 60s, maybe. Like he's been a conservative his entire life. He has a wealth of work out there. He's interacted with all the major players. He knows the lay of the land, So that's how I view that thing.
Yeah, no, I think that's awesome. Talking about a value system, building a value system versus it's not just good enough to be against something, but having something to go to and having something to build upon. That's where real solutions come from. Mm-hmm. You mentioned Ibram X. Kendi, and this is a person that I don't know a lot about. I've read some excerpts from some of the books that he's written, seen some of the interviews that he's done, and the reason that he comes to mind, and I'm kind of glad that you brought it up, Christian, is because recently my brother. He's pretty much my brother, but he's my cousin. His daughter was assigned in 8th grade, assigned the book Stamped.
The anti-racist book?
Yeah, Stamped. Anti-racism, racism, anti-racism, and you. And she had to read this book and do a book review on it and stuff like that. 8th grade. he brought it to my attention because he knows that I do stuff like this, and I'm working on getting the book now. I've got to go through this book, and I've reached out to a number of different people, but that whole thing, and this is something that I know that you spoke with and spoke quite well on, is this kind of CRT 1619 project kind of stuff being pushed upon the students in our public school system. Talk a little bit. This isn't necessarily the direction that I planned on going with this, but talk a little bit about that, Christian. I noticed that your face kind of, it almost came as some surprise to you that would have been pushed in a public school, or it pains me to see that kind of thing
Not
happening.
Surprised. Disappointed, shocked,
Yeah.
a little bit, but not totally surprised. I'm a little perplexed that they would push it so blatantly in an eighth grade class. But there's been other things happening in eighth grade classes that basically mirror the principles people like Kenny talk about. Plenty of things that happen in eighth grade classes. There's been like surveys on how to be on like how to be less racist or whatever in eighth grade classes. There's been all kind of innuendo. But the fact that they would have prescribed the actual book is very interesting. I've not heard of that, but I don't doubt that it's happening. It probably very well is happening. In the 1619 project, which is more of a high school thing, there were a few thousand schools around the nation that taught it. Many of them located in the bigger urban areas like Chicago, Philadelphia, Los Angeles. And the entire premise of the project, if you look at it, is that America's foundational principle, its ethos, is slavery. It's not individualism. It's not individual freedom. It's not natural law. It's complete and utter slavery. And that America should be understood as starting in 1619, since that's when the first slave ship came here, as opposed to 1776, because it's not about freedom. And so when you're telling people that their entire country is based on oppression, you're not giving a objective view of history. You're giving your subjective opinion about a few events in history and trying to transpose that into education, to hopefully create some kind of political action. Because the 1690 Project is basically a collection of essays from various academics, and they all have political prescriptions in their essays. Some of them say that the capitalism hurt the Black community, and some of them suggest you do something about it. So it's essentially political activism masquerading as genuine education, and that is in schools. It's in quite a few schools, and if that's not in the schools, then there's things that the teachers themselves do that are in the schools that are quite lenient towards woke ideas, and so it's concerning. It's terrifying. It happens. And the best way, again, to beat these ideas is by fighting back in public discourse, speaking out against them.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely. Absolutely. And that's one of the things that we're doing here with the podcast, the D-Rate the 8 podcast. We're looking to, I don't just, bring these things to people's attention, but I like to have guests on, like yourself that have solutions. It's not simply a matter of wokeism is bad, or Ibram X. Kendi is evil, and we should be, we shouldn't be teaching this stuff. I don't think I want my niece having to read that in eighth grade, and then separating children by race in our schools, and telling a certain group that they're oppressed and a certain group that they're oppressors. I think that's an awful thing to subject children to. But I love the fact that there are people out there, like Color Us United, like FAIR, like Braver Angels, that are actually presenting real solutions and not just simply pointing out the problems. Same way on D-Rate the 8 podcast. A lot of my episodes are how we can do things better to be better people. It's all about bettering the world one attitude at a time, trying to make people understand that the victim mentality has never done anything to make anybody's life better. How can we do things in our day-to-day life to make things better? How can we react better to situations that are out of our control? Things like that. I mean, it's not just, you talk a lot about a value system, Christian, and I think that's absolutely incredible. It's not simply good enough to be against something, but what is your value system, and how does your value system your life better? How does your value system make the world better? how does your value system, how can you expand your value system on others in a way that makes them see that it will make their life better as well?
My value system simply requires you to be a human being. It doesn't require you to have a PhD, doesn't require you to have lofty knowledge. I believe in the idea of natural law, that there are principles that are inherent to our very nature that can inform how we can live a very good life. And those principles are discoverable through our inherent ability to reason. And our ability to reason provides the foundation for duty, provides the foundation for society and everything. And this is something that we see observed in our everyday lives. It's not something it's not some abstract idea. It's the solid ground beneath the sort of fog of abstract ideas that are threatening the West right now, whether it be postmodernism, whether it be social justice, whether it be anything, any of these ideas. It's the solid ground beneath them. So that's my value system. I believe that every individual has rights. Every individual is inherently valuable. Every individual is inherently free as a result of being human. And all of those claims give birth to a wide range of ethical considerations that are pretty straightforward, that are pretty laid out, and that if people want a virtuous society, they should follow. That's my personal belief.
Very, very cool, Christian. I can't tell you how much I appreciate your time today.
I'm so happy to be here, man. I was happy to be here. Absolutely.
I think the work that Color Us United is doing is very important. I think the work that you're doing personally, Christian, is very important. You've got some awesome stuff on your YouTube channel that I encourage people to go take a look at.
Thank you.
And I hope we can do this again.
We can absolutely do this again anytime. I enjoyed it.
Christian Watson, thank you very much. Friends, there you have it. What did I tell you? Another profound thinker, another fantastic guest on the Derate the Hate podcast, working hard every day to better the world in which we live. Like he said, friends, true success does not come from selling yourself to people for their temporary affection. Pay attention to your value system. Spread value wherever you go, just like Christian Watson's doing with Color Us United, his podcast, his YouTube channel. If you want to find out more about Christian, just go to our show notes. You can find out all kinds of ways to follow him, contact him, and just see more of his work. With that, we're going to wrap things up and just say, get out there, be kind to one another, be grateful for everything that you've got, and remember, it's up to you to make each and every day the day that you want it to be. Friends, I am Wilk from wilksworld.com. Email me, wilk@wilksworld.com. Follow us on most social media channels. Be sure to share us with your friends and leave ratings and reviews wherever you get your podcast. It is greatly appreciated, and it helps get us out to other people as well. With that, I'm going to back on out of here, and we will catch you next week.